In August 2019, federal agents searched Jeffrey Epstein's island in the U.S. Virgin Islands. They searched his Manhattan townhouse. They searched his property in Palm Beach. By the end of that month, the public record showed federal search activity at every Epstein property in the United States except one. That one property sat on roughly 7,600 acres in Santa Fe County, New Mexico. It had a 26,000 square foot mansion, a private airstrip, a helipad, a stable, a yurt. Survivors had been telling investigators about that property for years, and the public record shows no documented federal search of it during the 2019 investigation. I am Carson Morgan. This is Unsolved Chronicles X. Today we are going to talk about Zorro Ranch. We are going to talk about what was on it. We are going to talk about who went there. And we are going to talk about why, until New Mexico's March 9th, 2026 operation. The best public record available points to no publicly documented federal search. Zorro Ranch sits about 30 miles south of Santa Fe, near a small town called Stanley. Public real estate records list the deeded parcel at 7,588 acres. Official New Mexico legislative materials sometimes describe it as 10,000 acres. The difference comes from adjacent state land that Epstein's holding company leased, ostensibly for grazing. Reuters reported in 2019 that Epstein's holding company, Cypress Inc, held leases on 1,244 acres of state grassland adjoining the ranch. The New Mexico State Land Office concluded there were no cattle on the land. The agency said the leases appeared to have been taken to increase privacy and the land mass around the estate. The compound was unusual. There was a 3-story main house, a caretaker's residence, multiple additional residences near the entry, a lodge, a log cabin, a grass airstrip with a hangar, a firehouse, a heated 7-bay garage, a yurt. The Associated Press described the principal mansion as 26,700 square feet, with a sprawling courtyard and an oversized living room. Epstein bought the ranch in 1993. He bought it from the family of former New Mexico Governor Bruce King. Reuters reported that Gary King was one of the parties to that sale. By the time of Epstein's death in 2019, the ranch was held through a U.S. Virgin Islands corporation called Cypress Inc. A Virgin Islands probate filing listed the Cypress shares that held title to 49 Zorro Ranch Road, Stanley, New Mexico, valued at $17,246,000. In 2023, the Epstein estate sold the ranch. The buyer was a Texas company called San Rafael Ranch, LLC. The Associated Press reported the property had first been listed at $27.5 million, then relisted at $18 million. The final sale price was undisclosed. Public record reporting later linked San Rafael Ranch, LLC to the Huffines family. Allegations about what happened at the ranch are not new. They go back almost 3 decades. Reuters summarized survivor accounts placing abuse at Zorro Ranch as early as 1996. An unsealed court filing in the Giuffre versus Maxwell litigation stated that Virginia Giuffre had produced multiple photographs of herself taken at the ranch. Reuters reported that several civil lawsuits accused Epstein of sexually assaulting girls at the property. By 2007, the ranch manager, a man named Bryce Gordon, had already been interviewed by the FBI. According to Reuters' review of later released files, Gordon told agents that Epstein flew in guests and masseuses to the ranch. He also hired local massage therapists. Locals had a name for the place. They called it the Victoria's Secret Ranch. That came from the perception that the property hosted an unusual flow of models, guests, and what one Reuters source described as elite visitors. A 2020 letter from the New Mexico Attorney General's office characterized Zorro Ranch as an alleged hub in trafficking activity that stretched between the U.S. Virgin Islands, New York, and Florida. Now we get to the part that makes this case different. In July 2019, the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York indicted Jeffrey Epstein. The indictment alleged that Epstein sexually exploited and abused minors at his homes in Manhattan and Palm Beach. The phrase used in the charging document was, quote, "among other locations," close quote. But the detailed overt acts and property-specific allegations were centered on New York and Florida. New Mexico did not just sit back. The state attorney general's office, then led by Hector Balderas, opened its own line of inquiry in 2019. The Associated Press reported that the office confirmed it was investigating and had interviewed possible victims who visited the ranch. On July 16, 2019, the New Mexico State Land Office provided lease records to the New Mexico Attorney General. Official New Mexico legislative materials say the 2019 state investigation covered alleged sex trafficking and human trafficking. It also looked at the financial businesses Epstein owned and used. Those materials say the investigation was eventually handed over to the FBI. This is the moment that everything pivots on. In late August 2019, every major news outlet was reporting on the federal raids. CBS News reported that agents had raided Epstein's Virgin Islands property. CBS noted that, as of Wednesday evening, agents had not checked out Zorro Ranch. Reuters described the New Mexico ranch as one of the few Epstein properties yet to be raided. That was the first clear press record, specifically flagging the ranch's non-search status during the main federal scramble. And after that, Epstein died. The federal criminal case against him was dismissed because of his death. In the public search record reviewed for this episode, no pre-2026 Zorro Ranch search surfaced. In 2023, the property was sold to San Rafael Ranch, LLC. For another 3 years, nothing visibly moved. In February 2026, New Mexico reopened the case on 2 tracks. The first was a criminal investigation by the New Mexico Department of Justice. The second was a legislative truth commission, created by House Resolution 1. The State House Fiscal Impact Report said the commission was established to determine whether local or state officers failed to investigate allegations after being informed of possible criminal activity at the ranch. The commission was given the power to conduct hearings, compel witnesses, and issue subpoenas. Reuters reporting from February 2026 included a quote from New Mexico State Representative Andrea Romero. Romero said there was, quote, "no record of federal law enforcement searching the ranch," close quote. That was 2026. Survivor accounts had placed alleged abuse at the ranch since the mid-1990s, and later New Mexico materials characterized it as an alleged trafficking hub. On March 9, 2026, that changed. The New Mexico Department of Justice said it had initiated a search of the former Zorro Ranch. The search was assisted by the New Mexico State Police and a Sandoval County Fire and Rescue K-9 team. The department thanked the current property owners for, quote, "granting access," close quote. That phrase matters. Granting access, not executing a warrant. The Associated Press and Reuters both confirmed that the March 2026 operation was conducted with the new owner's cooperation, not under a judicial search warrant. Reuters had a witness on scene who watched state vehicles and a K-9 team vehicle leaving the ranch. Reuters described the March 2026 action as the time police searched Zorro Ranch quote, for the first time, close quote. That is the documented public record. The first publicly documented search of Zorro Ranch happened on March 9, 2026. Almost 7 years after Jeffrey Epstein's death. So why didn't it happen earlier? The dossier on this case lays out 4 possible reasons. We are going to walk through each one. The first reason is the only one that is fully confirmed. New Mexico's prior investigation was closed in 2019 at the request of the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Southern District of New York. The request was made to avoid a parallel investigation. That is the explanation publicly given by former Attorney General Hector Balderas. It is the explanation repeated by current Attorney General Raul Torrez's office. It is the explanation carried by Reuters, the Associated Press, and official state materials. Think about what that means operationally. If a state inquiry stands down in deference to a federal one, a state search becomes much less likely, especially if the federal case does not prioritize the property. New Mexico stood down. Then the federal case did not search the ranch. Then Epstein died, and the federal case was dismissed. The second possible reason is inferential. The 2019 federal indictment from the Southern District of New York was operationally focused on Manhattan and Palm Beach. The overt acts described in the charging document were centered on those 2 cities. The most visible post-arrest federal searches were at the Manhattan townhouse and the Virgin Islands estate. New Mexico may have been seen by federal investigators as important background, or a corroboration site, or a later-stage target, not an immediate search priority. The third possible reason is the property itself. Zorro Ranch was massive. It was remote. It was buffered by adjacent leaseholds that state officials concluded had been taken specifically to increase privacy. A search of a property like that would have required substantial planning. It would have required a clear theory of what evidence was likely still present. Years after the alleged activity, no official public record confirms that this is why the ranch was not searched. It is a plausible operational inference. The fourth possible reason is the weakness of contemporaneous local complaints. Reuters reported in 2026 that the head of Santa Fe's Sexual Assault Support Center said roughly 45 people had sought information or services in 2019 concerning alleged abuse at Zorro Ranch. But none of them filed police complaints at that time. Reuters also reported that Santa Fe police said they had no record of any report concerning Epstein. The Santa Fe County Sheriff's Office said it was still checking. None of that excuses non-search, but it helps explain why the local paper trail was thin. Here is what I want to be careful about. I have looked in the materials available to me for a publicly accessible Rule 41 federal search warrant for Zorro Ranch, a search warrant return, an inventory, an affidavit, anything from the period before Epstein's death. I did not find one. The Department of Justice's Epstein Library says it houses materials responsive to the Epstein Files Transparency Act. The FBI Vault hosts 22 parts of Epstein proactive disclosures. But the publicly accessible disclosures reviewed for this episode do not show a prior Zorro Ranch search. That is not absolute proof that nothing ever happened privately. The Department of Justice itself warns that some materials are difficult to search because of handwritten text or technical limits. The FBI has declined public comment in Reuters' reporting. So the right formulation is not, quote, "It is impossible that anyone ever set foot there," close quote. The right formulation is this: there is no strong public documentary evidence of a pre-2026 search. and the best authoritative reporting says the March 2026 search was the first. While we are being careful about what is known, we should also be careful about what is alleged, but not verified. Two things in particular. In 2019, an anonymous email was sent to the New Mexico State Land Office. The email demanded 1 Bitcoin in exchange for purported videos. It also alleged that 2 girls had been buried in the hills near the ranch. That email is part of the public record. The claim has never been publicly verified. In 2026, Al Jazeera obtained, through a public records request, photographs from a separate tipster. The photographs were claimed to show, quote, grave-like plots, close quote, near the property. Al Jazeera reported on the existence of those photographs. The outlet expressly said it could not verify the claims. These allegations are part of why New Mexico reopened the case in 2026. They helped catalyze official attention, but they do not, by themselves, prove what happened on the property. Reuters has reported that many newly released Epstein files contain untrue and sensationalist claims. That warning applies here. The reopening was justified. The most lurid specific allegations have not been verified. Now let me tell you about who was at the ranch. Reuters reported that Bryce Gordon, the ranch manager, told the FBI in 2007 that Epstein flew in guests and masseuses. Reuters further reported that Gordon said many of the massage workers came through a Santa Fe spa called 10,000 Waves. The spa denied that. Some came through referrals. The ranch also linked Epstein to political and institutional circles in New Mexico. Reuters reported continued campaign donations from Epstein to New Mexico Democrats after his 2008 conviction in Florida. The donations went to figures associated with the Bruce King family and to former Governor Bill Richardson. Reuters emphasized that it found no evidence the donations bought anything in return. But the reporting framed those contacts as part of a broader inquiry into possible enabling failures. Reuters also reported on meetings at the ranch that involved scientists and business figures. In 2014, Joshua Ramo visited the ranch on behalf of professors from MIT and Harvard. There was a lunch. By that point, Epstein had been a registered sex offender for 6 years. Court and survivor-linked materials also place the ranch inside the abuse narrative. The unsealed Giuffre filing said Virginia Giuffre had produced photographs of herself at Zorro Ranch. Reuters, the Associated Press, and Time all reported that multiple women alleged abuse at the property. Reuters' April 2026 follow-up added a local dimension. New Mexico lawmakers said local alleged victims had now reached out. Santa Fe's Sexual Assault Center said dozens of survivors or potential witnesses had sought help in 2019. The 2026 Legislative Truth Commission has the power to determine whether local or state officers failed to investigate allegations after being informed of possible criminal activity. That investigation is happening right now in 2026. The Commission can conduct hearings. It can compel witnesses. It can issue subpoenas. Reuters published aerial views of Zorro Ranch from July 15, 2019, and from March 8, 2026. The compound was visible from the air. The New Mexico State Land Office published a map of the former Cypress Inc. leaseholds surrounding the ranch. State land wrapped around or near the property. The geography of Zorro Ranch was knowable. That part was never a secret. I want to close by telling you what we know and what we do not know. We know that Jeffrey Epstein bought Zorro Ranch in 1993. We know that survivors began describing abuse at the property as early as 1996. We know that the FBI interviewed the ranch manager in 2007. We know that the property was the most isolated U.S. Epstein residence. We know that in late August 2019, the public record showed federal search activity at every other Epstein property in the United States. And we know the public record shows no documented federal search of this one. We do not know everything about why. The confirmed reason is the stand-down request from the Southern District of New York. The other reasons are inferences. We do not know what evidence is still on that property today, almost 7 years after Epstein's death. We do not know whether the tipster claims about buried girls are real or false. We do not know what the New Mexico Department of Justice will find from its March 2026 search. But we do know that the question is finally being asked. The New Mexico legislature is asking. The New Mexico Department of Justice is asking. Survivors are coming forward locally. The first publicly documented search of Zorro Ranch happened on March 9, 2026, almost 7 years after Jeffrey Epstein's death. Whatever answers come out of that 2026 search will not bring Jeffrey Epstein into a courtroom. He has been dead since August 2019. But what those answers might do is finally put the question on the record. The question of why, after years of survivor accounts and later official allegations against the largest and most isolated Epstein property in the United States, that property had no publicly documented federal search. That question deserves an answer. The survivors who tried to be heard in 2019 deserve an answer. I am Carson Morgan. Until next time, stay curious, stay safe.